Welcome to M&G Agency Life, your go-to podcast for creativity, insights, and now a spotlight on the amazing businesses we work with.
This series is all about celebrating the people behind the brands, diving into their stories, achievements, and what makes them tick.
From the inspiring journeys to future plans, we'll be shining a light on the local businesses driving our community.
So, whether you're here for marketing tips, entrepreneurial insights, or just curious about what goes on in the world of business, you're in the right place.
Shall we get into it then?
Oh, heck yes. Welcome back to Series 2 of M&G Agency Life, Meet the Client. This time round, it's all about celebrating the inspiring businesses and individuals that we work with here at M&G. Last week, we heard from Bradley Boyd, and today we have another incredible story.
Yes, we certainly do. Joining us today is Roy Milne, the founder of Asset One. Roy has, a truly fascinating career journey spanning over 25 years in asset management with experiences across offshore rigs, ships, technical plants. He's also an entrepreneur, an adventurer, and someone who has truly made his mark in the energy industry. Roy, hello.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming into the podcast room. We also have our PR account manager, Sarah Bremner, joining us. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
It's great to see you again, Sarah.
Always great to be in the podcast room with you.
Never
Pete.
a dull podcast when you are here. You're here because you work quite closely with Roy.
I do.
And
That's
we've done a little bit of brand work with Asset One recently.
We have indeed, yes. So we're working on some exciting stuff at the moment, soon to be released. And we're working on an extended brand identity for Asset One. It's been really good fun.
Excellent. All right. That's all great. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Roy. And today, Roy, we're going to look at your journey from your early career in the military to starting up your own business and the lessons you've learned along the way. We also want to hear about your love for adventure sports, because we know all about that, and get some insights into the ever-evolving world of asset management. So I guess a good place to start, briefly, if you want to tell us what Asset One is all about. What's the elevator pitch, Roy?
Asset One, what is Asset One? So Asset One's an asset management consultancy firm, and we sell efficiency, essentially. So we whisper in the ears of large plant operators and technical plant operators like oil and gas, installation operators, drilling contractors. If you've got a bit of technical plant that's got bolts and valves in it, then essentially steer you towards reducing your operating cost and reducing the risks that go along with it.
Okay. All right. We're going to hear more about this as we get through this episode. We know you've had such a varied career, from your time in the military to working as a maintenance technician and later as a director. So why don't we go back to your time in the military as a starting point? Because we want to hear about that. What first drew you to that career path, and what was it like?
Sure. So I'd like to say it was by design, but it really wasn't. So at school in Bridgedawn, didn't have much options at the end of school, and was basically told, don't come back after summer, or there won't be a place for the year, basically.
And can we just check, because we know, Sarah, you and Roy actually go further back than your working career.
We do. We've actually known each other since we were in nappies.
Were you in school with Roy?
I was. I'm a little older. Don't tell them how much older, Roy, but yes.
Right, so you
We've
can
known
verify.
each other, yes.
You can verify what Roy was like at school.
I can. We were also neighbours. So yeah.
Right, okay.
Everything then.
This is going to be an interesting one, I can tell. So, Roy, you've got to the end of school. You said you didn't have many options. What happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I was quite a practical person at school, not really an academic, I guess is a broad way of putting it. So anything I could get my hands on, I kind of smashed. So cooking, music, technical, anything like that, I absolutely loved it, and normally did very well in it. Anything to do with theory or academia, maths, English, biology, all that kind of stuff, not my cup of tea.
Right,
so
okay.
I was a class clown. I was the rogue.
I might have been similar when I was in school. So I kind of...
Yeah. I feel like that could have been very similar to you, Pete.
I don't think it's a bad thing, to be honest with you.
not at all.
If there's a
Absolutely
joke
not.
to be had, I was generally at the core of it, or involved in some way. Came to summertime and was told by our old head teacher, look, don't bother coming back after summer, because there won't be a space for you. Okay, right, what's the options? and yeah, took the summertime to consider what to do next, and had a few starter jobs, a few little bits and pieces that I got involved in, but ultimately ended up in the military. Probably the boot in the backside I was needing, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of routine, a little bit of authority that you listen to, a little bit different to the teachers at school.
Okay.
And, in hindsight, exactly what I was needing.
Right. Okay. So you kind of noticed at that point that you needed a bit of discipline, and it was maybe quite a good path to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Good. I imagine that part in your life was quite challenging. I mean, kind of taking that career jump. Do you remember a moment that tested you? And did you find anything that taught you a valuable lesson or anything like that?
Anything that tested me. So the change tested me.
Yeah.
Having to change the way you think about authority, teamwork, achieving whatever objective it is, whatever you're doing, quickly understanding that you can't really do it on your own. Some things you can do on your own, and that's fine. But realistically, establishing relationships with other people, good communication, like all that stuff that we've got stuck on posters and corporate walls around the city. It's that's the important stuff, and that was the hardest lesson that I learned. Was as a kid thinking, I don't need anybody else, I can do all this on my own, and if you try to help me, I'm just going to put the barriers up, to flipping that and going, you know what, actually, if I help you, then you help me, and together we succeed, and on you go.
Point.
And there's lots of practical applications for a thought process like that.
Yeah.
It must have been a big change because you were quite young. You were in Aberdeen. Did this take you out of the city?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've done my fair bit of travelling. So initially down south coast of England, and then travelling around and sitting in an apprenticeship and serving my time as a Sparky, an electrical technician. So I did a little bit of travelling, but that developed later in my career, let's say.
Okay, so I guess from the military we often hear stories about the bonds that are formed and also the kind of lessons that are carried through your life. Did you have mentors along the way that helped you, or any experience that have stuck with you from that time to where you are now?
So I guess from back in that time, there's a couple of people that I guess they saw that there was a potential. Potential is probably the right word to use at that time, early 20s. It's like this guy could become, something useful eventually.
And what's quite incredible is that wasn't spotted at school where you were almost rejected, whereas someone else has seen potential.
Oh yeah, I mean that's school in the 90s is a lot different to what it is just now.
Yeah,
so, we're a million years ago in my head, and absolutely, it was listen. When we were at school in the 90s, you were either got your head down and kind of standard issue, you were really clever, right, bit of a geek, or you were thick.
You looked at Sarah.
I'm not quite sure which camp I fall into.
I'm not saying anything. That was the kind of, if I was to put it into brackets, that was my interpretation of school in the 90s. And if you were in that kind of thick box troublemaker, didn't really apply yourself, you were kind of cast off.
Yeah.
Right? It was kind of you are what you are. That's never going to change.
Can't change. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's all it's ever going to be. And I guess in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, being around more experienced people who have a bit more practical life experience, they still fairly rough guys, but they have the skills to actually say, well, see that little bit that you did there, that 1 in 10 that you did, if you can just do that one a lot more, that is what good looks like. So actually explaining to you, saying, well, this is what happened today, or this is what happened in this exercise, or whatever. But that bit there, if you do more of, when that guy was struggling and actually you didn't sit and have a conversation where you literally grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and launched him through the pipe or whatever, then that's what leadership is. That's a good core value. You should really focus on that a little bit more. And I suppose it was a light switch moment.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'd never had that before. I hadn't had anybody look at me and think, that guy's got potential. If I just mentor him, talk to him, encourage him, give him explain things to him, then he could do so much more. The explanation part just didn't exist. You did something wrong, you got into trouble, that was that.
Yeah.
Whereas you got some recognition and that kind of worked for you.
Totally, because I knew I knew what to do more of, right?
Yeah.
It's very, very simple stuff. If people don't tell you where you're going wrong, you've got no chance of changing that. And only knowledge and experience, more experience, is the thing that's going to help them coach you and make a change. And once you know what to do, you know what not to do, you can just keep doing it, right? Or you can replicate it. Or you can maybe even coach someone else in it and say, actually, see that thing that you did there? Just do a bit more of that. And then you're now then passing on that value to someone else. You're helping someone else develop.
And I imagine we'll probably get to this, but I imagine that's probably how you maybe mentor and manage people as well.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to think so. I always try and leave things in better condition than when I got them. I always try and help. If there's a way to help, then absolutely a sense of service, 100%.
So moving on from your military days, before starting Asset One, you had lots of different jobs. What was next?
After that, I did what everybody does and goes to work for an ex-military guy who set up a security company. It's about as standard issues you can get in the military. And basically got offered a job on money that was, day rate money that was out of this world.
Right.
Nice.
Going from something like, sort of 18 grand a year to 400 quid a day.
Wow.
To go and work
Nice.
in personal protection, close protection. And of course I was like, yeah, let's go. Where to sign?
This sounds exciting.
Yeah, what's
So,
to come?
I mean, can you talk about this at this point? What kind of people were you doing personal protection?
You might have to kill us, Pete.
Yeah, you can tell
I'm a
us.
bit
but
nervous now being in this.
Come on, it's not the movies here.
Tell us
It's
more
not-
about
Is it
this.
not? No.
Who were some of the people? What kind of people were you offering protection for?
So I only did it for a short period of time to make some money because I knew I was going to end up offshore. I had a kind of inclination that's where I was going to go.
Okay.
So couple of big jobs I did was I worked for one of the Saudi princesses who was travelling at the time. So picked her up in Monte Carlo with a team of... so I was down as what they call an executive protection officer. That's the person that stays with the client at all times,
Right.
unless they're in their hotel or wherever they're staying.
Yeah.
So I looked after a residential team that looked after the security of the hotel, the floor she was in, and the one
Wow.
up and below. Couple of drivers as well.
I'm picturing a black suit. You're wearing shades.
Like
you've got
that.
an earpiece.
Yeah, so not so much the black suit. Ginger in Monte Carlo, a suit doesn't go well. Far too hot for me. So I looked after this Saudi princess and her entourage of people.
Wow. Yeah.
Money man, people to carry the shopping for her, and it was all designer shops and Casino Square and all that good stuff. So pretty interesting stuff. An insight into a part of life that I just didn't know existed.
Yeah.
Interesting, but also, I guess it probably tells us a lot about some of the traits you must carry with you, because it's not really a laughing matter. You're doing security for someone of a high level. You have to be so vigilant the whole time.
Yeah, so I guess attention to detail has always been a thing for me. Whether or not I act on that detail is a different story, and I
I
guess
can confirm he does.
He does. Yeah.
no.
So we know about Roy. We know about the trip to Iceland, and Sarah's told us about itineraries and things like that. You run a tight ship.
He does run a tight ship.
A tight ship, not a tip. Yeah, absolutely. It's so planning is a big thing for me, right?
Right.
Knowing what's going to come up and making sure that you don't miss anything. And I guess I'm a process thinker where that's concerned, right? I actually go through, right, well, if we get on the plane, then what happens? Then we get off the plane, we get a transfer, what happens in between? What time of day is it? Do we need to eat? Where do we get food? Stuff like that. And I would rather be over-prepared than under-prepared.
So basically, just to go back to this trip to Iceland, which was a charity trek that you and Sarah embarked on recently, you did all the planning. Sarah just rocked up with her suitcase, didn't she, at the airport?
No.
Squad effort.
Squad effort, indeed.
effort.
I think some of the photographs would tell you different. So there's one specific photograph taken on that trip where Roy is enjoying a nice iced refreshment of the alcoholic variety
Right.
in the foreground, and I am putting up the tent in the background.
Was that one of the photos that you took? Because all I saw from that trip was content of Roy's that you were sharing.
He's much better at it than I.
That's all.
We've gone off track a little bit here.
Yeah.
So you're in security. How do we get from there to getting into this asset management space?
Sure. So there's a big chunk of time there, which was me working offshore. So used the money that I earned doing close protection and security and working the door and stuff like that in Aberdeen to pay myself through some certificates, some qualifications.
Right.
Targeted oil and gas. My big brother worked offshore at the time and said, hey, you know what, if you put yourself through these courses, you've got the potential to earn quite a lot of money as a Sparky offshore. And I thought, hey, that sounds pretty good.
A Sparky onshore doing regular Sparky work versus what you can make offshore is significant, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was the incentive was there to pay myself through training. In hindsight, I did way more courses than I needed to do. Some of them I've never even used, but it was just like, look, I'd rather have too much than not enough. I'd rather have a core understanding and then head offshore than be ill prepared. And ultimately got a job with Ensco drilling, as they were back in the day, and through an agency to begin with, and rocked up and they said, right, is there anywhere in the world that you won't go? This is their old office in Portlethen. A guy called Kenny Mack. It's a great guy. He ended up being a bit of a mentor to me.
Okay.
He was a rig manager at the time for Ensco. Anywhere in the world you won't go, Roy? And I went, no. Anywhere. Brilliant. Any kind of job, anywhere. Sign me up. I'm in. You don't even need to ask. Like, I'm ready to go. And he said, right, how about Nigeria? And I was like, okay, well, yeah, let's go for it. And first job offshore was with Ensco down in Nigeria, working the Ensco 100, big, massive old rig. And you flew into the naval base, and then you were picked up by a minibus with like armed guards and all this carry on.
Wow.
Through the town, through the township, and then onto a speedboat out to the rig, and then lifted up from the speedboat, a couple of 100 feet on this basket and the end of a crane, a billy pew. And
I imagine there are so many stories from that period in your life.
It's an interesting time, especially down in Nigeria in the kind of early noughties. There was a lot of bad things happening down there, people getting kidnapped in oil and gas, ransom and all that good stuff. And I didn't really see much of it. The worst we ever saw was when we flew in country. The security guys, the airport security and customs, like the people that you're meant to trust, they were like, hey, welcome to Nigeria. What have you got for me, Mr. Roy? And you're like, okay, right, what do you mean? What have I got for you? What is it you're looking for? So you just got in the habit of leaving something on the top of your bag that you were happy to go missing. And then there was no problem. You just got through.
Yeah. Wow.
So, memory sticks, pen,
different
drive,
world.
like all that kind of stuff. You just leave it on the top of your bag and it would disappear and you go, well, that's the Nigeria tax.
Yeah. It's bizarre that you just get used to that way of life as well.
I didn't know any bit different at that point. So it was kind of bandit country as far as I was concerned. Like anything could happen. I had no expectation on what was going to be there. But got onto the rig and had a couple of guys that looked after me, a couple of maintenance supervisors that looked after me and kind of showed me the ropes as a green hand. And quickly got the gist of it. I was like, hold on a minute, I like this. This kit it's big, chunky. When it breaks, something's really gone wrong, and then I'm the dude that's phoned to come and fix it if it breaks.
Yeah.
I like that idea. So
right.
You can actually start the day and something's broken, finish the day and you've made a difference, and people can crack on with the job. And you start to understand the kind of magnitude of oil and gas, the industry, the money involved as well, and also what's required on the coal face to make that money, which is the important part. It's all about people.
Okay. So, Roy, you've clearly served your time. You've worked the tools. You've got your hands dirty. You've done a whole batch of different roles and positions. What motivated you to then make the leap and start your own businesses? And what kind of challenges have you maybe faced?
Sure. So, Asset One's my second big business. Big business. For me, it's a big business.
Yeah.
So our first business was Ramco, which is an electrical engineering firm. And I guess if you're asking what changed me from a Sparky into a business manager, an entrepreneur, it was all by chance, completely by chance. So at the time, I worked offshore on rotation. I was on 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off in the North Sea. And in my time at home, I was registered with a few agencies to drive transits, lorries, 9-tonnies, like all that kind of stuff, just ad hoc. So our driver's off sick, can you come and do a day? Okay, fair enough. And sometimes you didn't get any work, and then sometimes it was last minute, 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Can you get there as soon as possible? And I went to, picked up a job in Dice for a few days, and they driver's off sick. Can you drive a transit around Aberdeen delivering electrical parts? I was like, cool, I know electrical parts. I'm a Sparky. And got chatting with the director at the time. Companies Wellhead Electricals and Dice, they're still there, great company. And got chatting with the director, and he said, hey, actually, I think our driver is probably going to leave. Do you fancy a full-time job as a driver? And I went, no, I'm a Sparky offshore. I just do this as an extra.
Just a side hustle.
Just a side hustle. Yeah, just extra cash in the pocket. And at that point, you know, he had a bit of a light bulb moment. He goes, hold on a second. So we supply electrical parts. You're a Sparky. Like, how are you in design and like building control panels? He went through his office and came back with a drawing, and he said, "Here's a drawing of an electrical control panel. Like, we've got all the parts sitting there. Could you build it?" And I looked at it and I went, "Yeah, piece of cake, no bother." So just come in next week and build it for us. So came in, built the control panel, piece of cake as far as I was concerned,
Right?
And got a check. And I was like, "What's going on here?" He said, "Well, that's what you get paid for building the control panel. When are you home next?" I said, "Well, I'm away for 3 weeks, and then I'll be back." "Well, when you come back, we'll have this workbench up at the back of the warehouse.
Wow.
We'll have this kit laid out, and all you need to do is come back and build it for us."
So you were kind of changing their business at that point because they hadn't done this in-house. Is that what I'm getting from this?
Yeah, totally. So the director, Greg Rastel, he saw the opportunity in me and thought, hold on a second, rather than just supplying parts, I can supply a turnkey package, like an end product here, rather than giving it to the client and then they have to build it or get another company to build it. He's selling that as a solution to the firm, and I'm the enabler for that. So that ended up being, fast forward 4 years, I built a firm that had, at our busiest, we had 25 Sparks on the books.
Incredible.
Wow.
We had a place out in Contour. We had a stock of about £250,000 worth of electrical kit, which we bought mostly from Wellhead Electrical, which became our kind of partner business, our sister business. And we had a great relationship, a great business relationship together, Wellheads and Ramco. They supply the kit. We do the survey, the design, the installation, and kind of give the client the keys at the end of the job. And it was great. We didn't really have to do much sales because Wellhead, these guys did the selling for us. And we were just
that's a real challenging part, that whole business development piece. Yeah. So that was almost coming into you.
Yeah, 100%. And I had to learn a lot of things in that 4 years. From, going from, can you wear this panel, to then having a successful business. We need a finance system. We need an invoicing system. We need insurance. Right? What insurance do you need? I need to go find out about insurance. This 9001 thing that everybody keeps asking for. What is it? And how do I get that? What do we need to do to get that? Do I hire somebody or do I do it? How does it work? So a crash course in how to run a business. And that for me that's where the entrepreneurship part started.
Right.
It was actually going through that process from rocking up as one guy with a little bit of knowledge on building panels to, at the end of it, selling a business that had a squad of people, giving them income and supporting the local economy, paying tax on it, and doing everything above board, by the book. That for me was one of the best achievements in my life.
That is completely remarkable. I mean, Sarah, Roy's clearly made his mark in the energy industry. Does this sound like the same Roy that you knew in school?
A very different one, fully evolved one, maybe now. No, I'm joking. Roy's always shown those qualities, I think. He would say otherwise, but he always has been a leader. Also a little bit of a thief.
A thief?
Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think that I think there's a little side story here.
Oh, birds.
You have to tell us more.
I don't mean he was ever stealing electrical equipment. Let's just get the facts correct.
What's happened here?
Well, I didn't know this until we actually went on the trip to Iceland.
Right.
So,
sounds like there was a confession.
I mean, you talk about lots when you're away on a trip together, and we were very privileged to go on a trip for local charity VSA. A whole group of us trekked across Iceland, 60 kilometres over 4 days.
Amazing.
So you kind of spill your guts on a trip like that.
Yeah.
Tell each other everything. There's not much else to do really when you're trekking across
So what happened?
lava fields, etc. So Roy did tell me that once upon a time he stole my bicycle.
Roy!
Bicycle. My goodness.
He suggested he borrowed it and then did a little bit of maintenance and returned it. So,
Oh, well, there you go. He's just trying to make improvements.
absolutely.
always
So
looking for
way
improvement.
back when.
I mean, I'm
it's
picturing
always been-
Roy cycling around Aberdeen in a pink
I think it
With a
was.
With a basket. bells.
I think it had nice sparkly bits and things hanging off the handlebars.
Yeah.
And Roy, you're still a keen cyclist, but you've maybe changed your bike since then.
I think it looks a little different.
It's not, I still go for the tassels on the end. Handlebars, but,
Right, let's move this along. Let's get to achievements and some key moments.
Okay, so your career has been filled with significant milestones, from reducing maintenance costs by millions to building and selling a technical solutions business, which you've just spoken about. Have you got any other achievements that you're proud of?
So I guess everything we've spoken about so far has been quite tangible. So building businesses, doing work for big firms. And actually, the biggest achievement is learning about people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that the hardest lessons that I've learned have all been around not managing people. I don't really like that word, managing people, but leading a team or being part of a team and actually listening more than you talk. Right, it's a great piece of advice that I had a long, long time ago. You get 2 ears in one mouth for a reason, right? And probably the biggest achievement is when I hear feedback about me, and I'm always interested to hear what people think about the way I manage businesses, the way I work in a team, how we deliver a project, whether we get the detail right or whether we miss something. But the key part for me is how people hold me in regard and what they think about how I can help them. So having gone through what I've gone through at home and early career and even mid-career, I guess the thing that I've always felt that I've lacked is a solid mentor. So someone to actually give you a bit of guidance. There's been people along the way for a short period of time, but I kind of look back and say, well, actually, this one person was pivotal in my whole career, in my whole life.
Yeah.
That just doesn't exist. And for me, I've always kind of felt that that's, what if I had that? What else could I have done? So I kind of feel like now that I'm at an age where I need to pass that on. So the things that I didn't get and the things that I thought I wanted, I now need to be that person to the next person.
And do you mean that in your personal life or in your professional life, or maybe both?
Same thing, right?
Okay.
So even we split personal and professional, but actually it's all about people.
Yeah.
Your time at home with your kids is all about people. The time you debate something in a boardroom is all about people. How you react, the decisions you make. If we take away the people, it's just a logo in a building, right? And the important part for me is how you the relationships that you have inside and outside of work. So I go golfing with people that I also sell services to. Are they in the friendship zone or in the customer zone? Well, they're both, right? And I think the idea of splitting that up is, for me, it's a bit old school. I think for some people it probably works, and that's fine. But for me, it's all about people. So I guess the biggest achievement, I don't know if it's an achievement because I don't know if I'm there yet. Like, I think it's just a journey. It's not a destination.
Okay.
And I think probably the achievement so far to date is just to learn about people. It's to learn to shut up and listen before you actually try and inflict some wisdom on people and give your opinion and say, but have you thought about this? Because folk are not thick. Chances are they have thought about it. They just decided not to do that thing. They've decided not to act for a reason, and you're not going to know that unless you listen.
And it sounds like that's something you've become very good at.
I'm not the person to ask. Ask Sarah.
I can confirm he's an excellent listener. 4 days solid of listening to me when we were in a tent. I don't wish that upon anyone.
Roy, how did you survive that?
Poor guy.
How did you survive? Forget your time in the military. A tent with Sarah. And I guess the other thing on the people side is the fact that you actually, you manage, and you have managed big teams. That's a whole other kind of responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah, and the size of the team's kind of irrelevant, right? You just have to break it down, because I've worked for some fantastic, inspirational leaders, and I still have friends today in the industry who I'm their 3 o'clock in the morning call, right? That's what I call it. So you've got friends and colleagues and that you say, well, actually, they're up to 6 o'clock at night, and then if you phone them after that, they're not going to answer, and they're not going to help you. You'll see them the next day. And then you've got one or two people who you could phone at 3 in the morning and say, look, I am really struggling. I need your help. I need you to do this, or whatever it is, and you can absolutely rock solid bet bet your backside that they will help you. So that for me, actually having a small team of people around me who I can rely on in that way, and they know they can rely on me in that context as well. And then they manage their people their way, and then it goes down the pecking order. And, you know, if you have a team of 1,000 people, it's not the director or the CEO at the top that's responsible for that, right?
Yeah.
It's the CEOs, even directors, they don't make the money. You have to help the people who make the money, right? The definition of a director is a manager of managers, right? So you need to manage that person so that they can manage the people on the coalface that actually get their hands dirty and actually deliver the goods. And that's the bit that makes money. Strategy is important, risk management, governance, all this good stuff is absolutely essential to a business. But it is one cog in a big engine. And if you don't look after the cleaner in the same way as you look after the CEO, you're not going to succeed in business. You might succeed for a very short time, but the long-term game plan, you're just not going to get it. Right.
Hearing your thoughts on this, Roy, makes me really interested in your culture.
Okay.
So I think that's probably quite a nice discussion point, talking about the culture and the values. So Asset One, you've got a reputation for linking technical assets to business objectives. What do you think sets your company apart from others in this field?
I guess all the senior partners at our firm have worked hands-on the tools.
Okay.
Right? And there is a distinction between working on the tools and maintenance, being a technician or a manager, an engineer, and then actually strategic asset management, which is what we specialise in at Asset One. And there is a difference. And just because you know how to drive a car does not mean you know how to build it. They are two very different skill sets. But actually having an appreciation, as the senior partners and I do, an understanding of what it takes to deliver these maintenance routines that we're writing. Being there to think, well, actually, you need to add on another half an hour to get a permit. You need an isolation, like all this detail that means that the end product that we deliver to our customers, it's actually well thought out. And it's actually a full picture. It's a realistic picture that the technicians offshore look at and go, that actually makes sense.
Yeah, because it sounds like you guys have a real rounded understanding as to some of the problems that they may encounter.
Yeah.
So you're not just saying, go and do it. You actually know what's involved. You've been there, you've done it.
Yeah, we don't just, some firms have a theoretical understanding of how asset management works, and that's great. We need these advisors. They actually make us look very good. Thank you very much. But it's not just about having a theoretical understanding of the overall process. For me, and the reason I started Asset One is there are 101 asset management consultancy firms in the world.
Yeah, okay.
And what I wanted to do is I'm fed up hearing stories of customers, maintenance managers, directors, CEOs saying, well, actually, we had this project done, but it didn't deliver what we expected, or the end product wasn't quite what we were looking for. And actually, after just a few questions and a quick conversation, you go, well, actually, this is the part here that you need to look at in your business. Oh, they didn't look at that. That contractor didn't look at that at all. And I'm going, well, if you just make this one little tweak here, this changes your whole business.
Yeah.
You want to reduce cost? Start looking at criticality. You want to reduce risk? Well, you've got this risk thing happening in your maintenance management system, and then you've got this completely separate process called risk management for, risk assessment and all that good stuff, but they're not connected. You've got these business objectives that in a boardroom, you finish the meeting and then you all pat each other in the back saying you've got great business objectives. And then I look in your maintenance management system and I go, well, how are you delivering that? Because the two are not connected. And that's where our kind of strapline comes from, your assets, our expertise. It's like nobody knows your assets better than you. But what we tend to find when we go into a firm is there are pockets of gold information all over the company, but they're not connected. There's no overall view of where the firm is in terms of its asset management maturity. And one of the first things that we do, and we encourage our customers to take us up on, is to do a maturity assessment, where we come in and we talk to the CEO, we talk to the cleaner, we talk to a cross-section of the organisation to understand in a closed-door, safe environment where we respect their privacy, and we say, what's the biggest problems in your company? Like, if you had a magic wand, what should the firm do to solve this problem? What's your top 5 frustrations on a day-to-day basis? And that information is gold. Because we always find a thread that we can pull at to establish either it's a system that doesn't function properly, it's a process that's disjointed, it's 5 different systems trying to do something that actually, if you just had one system that was set up properly, it would be far more efficient. And your maintenance engineers wouldn't spend the day getting frustrated because they have to come out of this system and then jump into that system, and there's a delay in logging in, and I need to speak to finance for this bit. That's the number one reason why we exist as a firm, is we take that holistic view of your entire asset portfolio. If it's a fleet of 20 drilling rigs, if it's 5 production platforms, a fleet of boats, it doesn't really matter. The fact is that we look at, what do you do now? Where do you aspire to be? Your business objectives, where are you looking to go? And then the bit that we bring to the party is how to get you there.
And this must be so valuable to your clients. And I imagine this process, this I don't know if it's called a discovery, it's what we call it in our industry, but it must be so valuable, and it must really set Asset One apart from some of your competitors.
So I would like to think so. I mean, I've, in years gone by before we started Asset One, I've hired some of these companies. So I've been the customer.
Right.
So I've experienced firsthand, what they came in and sold me a Rolls Royce, and we got a Lada Samara at the end of it. And you're going, I paid a lot of money for this. Like, nothing wrong with Lada Samaras, right?
Yeah, just to caveat that.
Other cars aren't available. But yeah, you just feel like you've been sold something that they can't deliver. And that's a story that I hear more and more and more. And I spend a part of the year doing technical conferences and talks on asset management, but just to make it practical, like not get caught up in the detail. Because let's face it, the only people that are interested in the detail are engineers and sometimes accountants, depending on which part you're looking at. Sometimes it's risk people. But actually, the biggest impact you can give to a business is say, right, we can reduce your operating cost by 30%. And that's like a tangible saving. We can reduce the amount of incidents that you have by X, or we can eliminate or at least mitigate major accident hazards. So it's real tangible stuff that we deliver at the end of a project.
Yeah.
With so many incidents happening right on our doorstep and globally, when you can say, well, actually, have you had a look at your performance standards? Have you looked at your major accident hazards? When's the last time you did that? Well, we reviewed them 15 years ago. Okay, our industry has changed a lot in 15 years.
Yeah.
15 years ago, we had the BPs and the Shells and the Chevrons of the world who had entire departments to look at risk and reliability and all this good stuff. And actually, if firms took the same effort in analysing reliability data as they do financial data, we all know how much accuracy there is in financial reporting data, financial management. If you took that same effort and put it into the technical thing that is making the money for your business, imagine what inefficiencies we could find.
Yeah.
Because I know it doesn't take us long. Like within a few days, we come in and we pull out a few inefficiencies out of the hat that are, quick wins, stuff that we always see, and it's very easy to fix. So in the space of, 3 weeks, we could have come in, done a little bit of a mini assessment, a maturity assessment, and given you some pointers of things to look at. That's 3 weeks. And that's a trip offshore.
It sounds like a no-brainer to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So sticking with culture, how do your values as a leader shape the culture at Asset One?
Culture is an interesting word. Interesting term that we hear all over the place, especially in our industry in oil and gas and energy. And it's probably a little bit different for everybody. Culture for me is values plus behaviour equals culture. So most companies have core values around honesty, integrity, doing the right thing, even when people aren't watching, and helping other people while you can, continuous development, all that good stuff. And what I've found is it comes back to leadership, right? If you've got these values, these core values that everybody talks about, posters on the wall, part of your induction, all that good stuff, and then you have a leader that doesn't live that and breathe that every single day, then they're worthless.
Yeah.
Oh, so you've got a core value of always telling the truth. Right, cool. But then I spoke to my manager the other day and he told me a blatant lie. So now what I think is that we don't need to do that at all. That's not a real core value. Whereas, I guess, so I've worked for only, I would say, 2 firms in my life where they get culture just right.
Okay.
And where the values are
about as standard issue as everybody else.
Yeah.
But the difference is the behaviour piece.
Yeah.
When you've got real inspirational leaders, people who you want to get out of bed to work for, like you're G'd up going into the office, and they create opportunity for you, they connect the dots, they open doors for you, and actually they're the people that drive successful business. So these are the people that I take my inspiration from. So one of these guys was very kind enough to take me into his office and close the door and say, right, this is how it works, okay? This is values plus behaviour equals good culture. And ever since then, I've gone, that works, right? My process thinking head says, I can do that. That's a kicker. That's locked in, and that's going nowhere. So for me, we at Asset One, we have probably round about the same core values as everybody else. We have an extra one around community, about investing the money or spending the money in the places that you earn it. That's an important thing for us.
Okay.
Sports clubs, all that good stuff, kids football, that's an important thing for us. But our core values pretty much match everybody else's. The key difference for me, and the thing that I can actually do, the thing I have in my toolkit, is to live and breathe that every day. So if I ask somebody to do something, I need to leave them to do it their way. Probably a little bit famously, my out of office when I go on holiday is a beezer. And so when I have
Talk us through this.
What does that mean?
Can we share this on air? I'm a bit nervous.
I have a...
Yeah, let's.
There's a couple of times in the year where I am off grid completely.
Yeah.
So
you go dark.
I've gone full cycle with that. I've tried the whole always being available on your holidays, answering emails and all that kind of stuff, just so that you don't have to deal with it when you get back and all that good stuff. We've all been there.
Yeah.
So my out of office says that, I'm out of office spending time with family, and I'm not available until this date. So you now have a couple of options. If your inquiry can wait until after the date I come back, then resend your email with action required in the subject header, right? And I will take a look at it.
Oh, that's so
later.
smart.
Yeah,
If people do that, that's
Simple,
great.
Smart. Simple, smart, efficient.
Yeah.
Option 2 is if someone else can help you, speak to them, case closed, right? Someone else can help you, whether it's someone in our firm or somewhere else, whatever. And that's it. When I come back from my holiday, the first thing I do is I search for all the action required emails. I put them in a folder and I delete every single. So I am ruthless.
Savage.
I am totally ruthless because you know what? I am not a professional email answerer. That is not in my job title. It's not in my job description. And I think as an industry, we've turned into, there is a culture of, actually, I need to reply to this email because it's the latest one that came in. So priority management is a big thing for me. And I've learned that, you know what, if somebody sends you an email asking you to do something and you delete it, chances are they'll probably come and talk to you in person or pick up the phone if it's an absolute showstopper.
Exactly.
Email is not the end, it's not the end product.
There's definitely lessons to be learned there by a lot of people, right?
There is.
You have to be ruthless. Otherwise, what happens is you come back from your 2 weeks off and you spend about a week running through your emails.
Yeah, it's that first day. Where do you
the
start?
first day is awful. Just see the emails coming through.
Delete. Trust me, it's a game changer. Priority management.
So that is a takeaway for all of us then.
Yeah. So Mike, our MD, if you're listening, we will be doing that going forward.
If it doesn't state action required, it will not be action.
Right, look, let's move on. Let's talk about the future.
So what's next for Asset One? Any exciting projects or goals that you're focusing on for the future?
So some exciting news has been released recently. We've carved out part of our business into a new firm. We've spent nearly well over 2 years building our company and listening to what industry is looking for, listening to what our clients need. And we've added some smaller services along the way around inspection, survey, and a little bit of engineering as well. So in early January, we carved out part of the firm and created a new company, Ingenuity.
Wow.
Well done.
Which has its own leadership team. And Ingenuity exists to help low-cost operators reach integrated services. Okay, so we felt that a lot of the services currently offered to industry are, by big firms that maybe have a a cost associated with that. And we really want to solve problems for smaller, low-cost operators. The industry's changed in 10 years. We don't really see that the service market has changed much, so we kind of see that there's a gap there. Hence, Ingenuity comes.
Yeah.
So what that means for Asset One is we're focused on providing asset management advisory services. So really focused on efficiency, reducing risk, reducing cost. And we are steadily growing at a nice predictable pace at the moment. We've recently taken on a couple more senior partners to look at the AI space and data engineering space, which is something that is on everybody's lips just now. So, and it's evolving so quickly. It's just rapid.
Yeah.
Absolutely is. It sounds like you are going through a real exciting period. There's growth happening, and I was just going to get to that point. It's like you read my mind. I wanted to ask about. I mean, things change all the time, especially in this sector. Are there any trends that you're really excited about? You've just touched on AI.
Yeah, so the application of AI and predictive maintenance is starting to understand how our assets operate. In the North Sea in particular, a lot of these assets are past their design life cycle already. So if you went back to the design engineer, they'd be thinking, oh, it should be razor blades by now. It should be scrap. And we've extended them, once, maybe twice. And I think maybe what we haven't looked at in any detail is the amount of maintenance we need to do to continue operations.
Okay.
So we've got this plant that's very old, and we're still applying the same maintenance strategy as if it was brand new or in its kind of operating life cycle. So we need to cut our cloth to suit. And while it's a great idea to just throw money at maintenance and technical risk and all this good stuff, our clients are running a business, so they need to make money.
Yeah.
So there's definitely efficiencies to be had to look at, well, actually, how long does this asset need to last? And then tailoring the maintenance strategy to suit that objective. Now, that's not a cookie cutter approach, and it's different for not only every single customer, but it's different for every single asset.
Yeah.
So if you have a customer that's got 20 assets, it's going to be slightly different for each of them. And that for me is the gap, and that for me is why Asset One exists. That's where our future lies.
Exciting. Really is. Brilliant to hear all of this, Roy. We are nearing the end of this podcast. There's a little feature that we like to do. Amy's a big fan of this.
Yep.
I would like you to move into Inspiration Corner.
Yeah.
What's wrong with
We got
it?
rid of it, the last series, but here we are. Yes.
Inspiration Corner.
Yeah. It's a good concept. It's just the noise.
Yeah, right. Anyway, right, this is the part of the podcast where we need you to shimmy into Inspiration Corner. Are you in the corner? He's in the corner.
Yeah, shuffle.
He's playing along. I like it. I like that you're playing along with this. Welcome to Inspiration Corner. Roy, this is where we're going to ask you to share either a quote or a piece of advice or even a personal philosophy that has guided you throughout your career.
Right. Inspiration. Okay. So I guess probably the term, this too shall pass. Right.
Right.
When things are going really, really well and you're flying, the order book's full, money in the bank, everybody's happy, just remember that this too shall pass and it won't last forever. And equally, when things are rubbish and you really feel like you're out of options and you're at the bottom of the barrel, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
Right? You'll get out of there and you'll be back in the high place. So that one sticks with me. Has got me through a fair few dark times in business. And it's true.
Yeah.
I like
think
that.
it is.
I think
that's
that
really useful.
resonates with everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that into Inspiration Corner. Sorry about that, Amy. Right, moving on. Before we wrap up, we've got a bit of a quick fire round that we want to do, Roy.
Okay.
If you're up for this, we're going to call this, a bit of this or that.
This or that.
Let's get to it.
Yeah.
Go.
So, Roy, adventure sports or a relaxing getaway?
I know the answer to this. Come on.
It's adventure sports followed by...
Yes, exactly.
And then you go back for another adventure sport. And then you relax and round and round you go. Adventure sport, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Offshore rigs or onshore plants?
Oh, something appealing about a dirty drilling rig. I like it.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. Fight 100 duck-sized horses or 1 horse-sized duck?
He's thinking about this.
He is.
Trying to weigh up the...
Yeah,
it's a
the risk.
It's a risk conversation.
Yeah.
The horse-sized duck.
Yeah.
Horse-sized
Fancy your
I think I could
chances
take it. I think I could take it.
Work hard, play hard.
Both.
High risk investment or steady growth?
Ooh.
It's another both, but steady growth, I guess.
Classic rock or modern pop?
Classic rock.
Drill bits or spreadsheets?
Ooh.
Drill bits.
Action movies or comedies?
Comedy.
Wear socks with sandals or never wear socks again?
Socks and sandals. There was a lot of that going on in Iceland.
There was lots of Crocs and socks.
I was going to say Crocs, yeah.
It is the Icelandic way.
It is.
I would go, no socks. No socks.
Never wear socks again?
No. I just the socks and sandals it's not cool.
All right, well, there we have it.
We are.
That was This or That. Roy, thank you so much. Before we wrap up, do you have any final advice or thoughts in general that you'd like to offer up?
Anyone starting out in entrepreneurship, definitely just go for it. Just do it. Don't worry about the rest. If you get it wrong, then at least you've got it wrong and you know not to do that thing again. Right? Just go and do it. If you've got a business idea, however big or small, if you want to be a multi-millionaire or you just want to have a little firm doing hairdressing, just do it. Do it. Go for it.
Go out there and do it. You've got nothing to lose.
No.
Roy, where can people who are listening find out a little bit more about Asset One?
Sure. So the website's there, asset1partners.com. And we're also pretty present on LinkedIn as well. We try to have a conversation with you on LinkedIn, so you can get in touch there.
Okay, you're always open for a chat. That's great. So look, there we have it. That is a wrap on episode 2 of M&G Agency Life. Meet the Client. A big thank you to Roy for joining us today. Thank you so much, Roy.
Thanks for having me.
And Sarah, thank you for being here as well.
You're so welcome.
As always, if you'd like to know anything more about what we've discussed, just drop us a line. You can find us on Instagram at Mearns-Gill. You can find Mearns & Gill on Facebook, LinkedIn or online.
And you can also give us a text directly from your podcast platform. That way we can answer your questions. And don't forget to hit subscribe. That way you will be notified when our next episode drops. Next time, we're going to be chatting to a boxing legend turned influencer, Frank Feather. But that's next time. We will catch you then. Thank you.
Thank you.